Welcome everyone to the May 21st, 2024 council meeting. Prior to the open session, council met for a closed meeting. Anyway, pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act RSO 2001, chapter 25 as amended, the Council of Corporation of the Town of Parry Sound moved to a meeting closed to the public in order to address matters pertaining to litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, claim against the town. K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. And that meeting was held. I'd like to remind everybody first that this meeting is live streamed and recorded and available on the Town of Parry Sound website at www.parrysound.ca. And I'd also like to acknowledge at this time we're on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people under the Robinson-Huron Treaty of 1850 and the waterways traveled by the Métis of this region. And as a note, the Wissahickon 13th Annual Community Water Walk is going to be held May 30th. And it says our children and youth encourage community to join in and to uplift the water with them as we walk in prayer, offering our intentions and medicine to the spirit and future of the water. Start time is 9:30 a.m. and at Wissahickon Ceremonial Grounds, a garden behind the school, and ending at Yvonne Williams Park in Parry Sound here. So it says rain or shine, please dress appropriately with comfy footwear, bring your own water bottle or copper vessel, and there will be barbecue and refreshments to follow at Yvonne Williams Park after the walk ends. Other mover and seconder for the agenda? Councilor McCann, Councilor McDonald. Council agenda for May 21st, 2024 be approved as, are there any modifications to the agenda? Oh, there's. Right, okay, so item 955 is an addition to the agenda. All right, yeah, okay, in its direction. All right. Okay, all in favor of the agenda as amended, and that's carried. Thank you. Any disclosure, pecuniary interest? Nope. Okay, mover and seconder for the minutes. Councilor Bileski and Councilor Keith, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held May 7th, 2024 be approved as circulated. Any comments, discussion on those minutes? Nope. All in favor then? That's carried. Now we have a public meeting. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to take a few minutes to hold a public meeting to hear any interested persons with regard to a proposed zoning amendment application under section 34 of the Planning Act. We have a mover and seconder to adjourn the regular meeting, Councilor Keith and Councilor Bileski. Do we now adjourn the regular meeting and declare the public meeting open? All in favor? That's carried. Ms. Johnson, could you explain how the public was notified of zoning amendment application Z2402 for 1853009 Ontario Incorporated?
Yes, Mayor McGarvey, notice was given by prepaid first-class mail to the required prescribed agencies and property owners within 120 meters and posted on the property. Notice is therefore considered to be provided in accordance with the Planning Act.
Thank you. Mr. Rand, could you explain the purpose of the proposed rezoning application?
Thank you, Your Worship. The subject lands are located at 7 Champagne Street, and the purpose of the proposed zoning amendment application is to facilitate a previous consent which was provisionally approved by council, subject to conditions on March 5th earlier this year. The zoning amendment was required as a condition of the consent, and if approved, the zoning amendment would be applicable to the southerly proposed southerly lot only, which does not contain municipal road frontage. Approval of the zoning amendment application would result in a holding provision being placed on the lands, and prior to the removal of the holding provision, the property owner would need to secure public access to the satisfaction of council. And at this time, the applicant has not yet submitted a development proposal for the severed or retained lands.
Thank you. In accordance with the Planning Act, council will consider all matters placed before it prior to approving the zoning amendment application. If a person or public body who files an appeal of a decision of the council of the corporation of the town of Parry Sound in respect to a proposed zoning amendment does not make written submissions to the council before it provides or refuses to provide a decision on the zoning amendment, the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss the appeal. So at this time, does anyone wish to speak in favor of the proposed application for rezoning? If so, please identify yourself by name and give your address. And seeing that I don't think anyone in the audience is interested, so online, who do we have, please? Can't hear you, Lauren.
Can you hear me now, Mayor McGarvey?
Yep, Ken, you're good.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to address this application. My name is Lauren Arsenault. I'm a planner with Morgan Planning and Development, and we were retained by Greystone Project Management, Inc. to facilitate a consent application for a new lot creation at the subject property, 7 Champagne Street, which council approved back in March. And as council will remember, the purpose of the consent was to sever approximately 3.6 acres from the subject property to allow for future high-density residential development in line with the established marine residential zoning on the property. And of course, as a condition of approval of this consent, the retained lands are to be subject to a holding provision, which is what we are here this evening to implement. I think staff did a good job of summarizing why that holding provision is required and needed. I don't think I'll add anything else to that, but I'm available to answer any further questions that council or the public may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll just say one more time, does anyone wish to speak in favor of this proposed application for rezoning? So does anyone wish to speak in opposition of this proposed application for rezoning? Nope. Okay. Mr. Rand, have there been any letters received as a result of this notice?
There have been no comments received on the application for the holding provision. Thank you, Mr. Chair, or sorry, Your Worship.
Okay, thanks. Oh, thank you then. So I need a mover and seconder to declare the public meeting closed. Councilor McDonald, Councilor McCann, that we now declare the public meeting closed. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay. Questions of staff? Councilor McCann.
This would be for Mr. Kearns. We discussed this before the meeting, and so there's been some scuttlebutt lately with regards to navigating the roads minus the painted lines and such. And we deal with this every spring, and there are a number of reasons for the delay in getting those lines on there. Could you speak to that so that the public will know that they're soon will be on their way?
Certainly, through your worship. So our annual line painting for the vast majority of the lines throughout town, the center lines and the lane divider lines, are installed by a contractor. The reason for that is specialty equipment that allows them to move efficiently with minimal traffic interruptions. So they, excuse me, they are busy when it comes line painting season. And I think in a year such as this, we get warm weather early. And we would all love to see things done sooner rather than later. However, that doesn't change the amount of work that everyone has to get done in preparation for line painting. And then actually the contractors to move through the province, essentially following the weather, is kind of how the line painting happens for the most part. It's not that long ago that we just finished our first round of sweeping in town. So, and we are, just in our third week of May. So we're not that far into our warmer season. So I understand when we do get this kind of weather that everyone's anxious, as are we. But the contractor's availability is highly weather dependent as well. So first spring sweeping has to happen so we don't paint over top of winter sand that's still on the road, that for obvious reasons. And the amount of work that they can get done at any given time is dependent on the weather, in specifically humidity and temperature, because there's certain limits, whereas when the paint can go down so that it stays the longest, if it's applied in the wrong weather or the wrong temperature, the wrong humidity, it will not bond to the asphalt, and we certainly don't want to redo it after it's done. So for instance, last year we were into June prior to the lines being painted. We would certainly love to be able to have them ahead of our long weekend in May, but that's very rarely possible.
Great, thanks very much.
Councillor Keith?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a comment in respect to what Mr. Cairns has just commented upon, as well as a question for a different staff person. My comment in respect to what Mr. Cairns has just related, and I realize every community can be a little different, and we try to take pride in Parry Sound and always doing the best that we can with our staff. But within the last week and a half, I have been in 3 large cities within the province of Ontario, and I can advise not one of them has had their lines painted, and basically it's the same. You've got to have good eyesight and stay in what you can see is the best possible for your lane. And I think that's just the reality. 2 of those cities, large cities, are in Northern Ontario. So I think that we just have to recognize this is the reality, and we'd all like things to be perfect, but we aren't in a perfect world. So that's my comment there. But I do also have a question, and that would possibly be for Mr. Harris. And I'm just wondering, we've been without Vlad, the Economic Development Officer, since whatever, late December. And I'm just wondering how things are coming along there, because personally, I miss him.
Through the chair, Councillor Keith, the process is moving forward. We have interviews with some candidates on May 29th, so next week.
And my follow-up question would be, as a result of that, is it possible we may be looking at a possible position hire in sometime in June? Is that the hope if all goes well?
Through the chair, different candidates have different circumstances, whether they live in the area, whether they need to find accommodation, the amount of notice they might need to give to their employer. So, but if we're interviewing the end of May, that's first interviews. We want to have second interviews, reference checks. I think it's more likely, as soon as we certainly want the person as soon as possible, but I think it's more realistic, probably July 10th. Councillor Borneman?
I want to back up a little bit to the line painting. Mr. Cairns, everything changes and seemingly improves. Is there any new technology out there? Are paint changing to the point where there's some hope that we're not going to have to do this every season? Or are we pretty much stuck with the annual situation that we're in now?
Through your worship. So certainly you're right. There are technologies out there that at least purport to offer us longevity. There is a balance between cost, though. So we are trialing some of the thermoplastic road markings. We will be putting a few more of those down this year. So they're plastic material that gets bonded by heat to the asphalt. Certainly the manufacturer's specifications indicate that they're going to last a certain amount of time. We have trialed some previously that haven't lived up to that time frame. Again, I think again, every community is a little bit different in how much snow you get in the wintertime, how you treat that snow, whether you apply chlorides to melt the snow or you actually plow the snow off, which is a little tougher on the road markings, but definitely much better for the environment to remove snow mechanically than chemically. So there's all those sorts of things, and we are going to be trialing some thermoplastic and seeing what their performance is like, because they are considerably more expensive. So the payback needs to be there in terms of longevity to make it make sense for us.
Okay, any further questions? Nope. Correspondence, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have about 4 items of correspondence, one just added today. The first is from Simon and Fran Stanley, and it's a follow-up from the letter that was on last council agenda. It is again about the road allowance between lots 25 and 26 around Louisa Street. And the first concern that they list of the two is a reiteration of their concern not to be restricted access to their property, i.e. that the road allowance wouldn't be sold. Although they have no plans presently to sever lots there, they don't want that door closed for the future. And the second concern is about the natural watershed in the area. They describe the route of the water, the watershed and the route that the water takes, ending up around their property. And they note that their well, which is a boiling spring at the back of the property, about 500 feet from the house, would back up the backup of water from that watershed and water course would affect the quality of their water supply. So just bringing that to the attention of the town. And the second item is from the Multi-Municipal Energy Working Group basically regarding wind turbines. So this group has been actively following the procurement processes of the independent electricity system operator in undertaking to procure additional capacity to meet projected future energy needs of the province. The current IESO RFPs are calling for 5 terawatt hours of new energy generation and proposes that this be mostly derived from 2,000 megawatts of new energy generation produced by mostly wind and solar by 2030. So this working group is concerned mainly about safety measures in place. They have itemized these in the past. They indicate there are health effects to many residents living within the vicinity. Current setbacks are not sufficient to protect against a full range of noise emissions from wind turbines. They claim and are concerns with the setbacks regarding tower collapse, indicating that remains insufficient, as well as current blade length plus 10-meter requirements is not a strong enough protective measure. Setbacks for ice throw are also insufficient. So those are the main concerns. They indicate in 2013, 115 municipalities declared themselves unwilling hosts for wind turbine projects and advocate that until regulations are changed, they encourage other municipalities to consider a declaration also being an unwilling host. So this is up to council's discretion. There was a draft provided with the letter, and that's up to council. The third letter is from the St. James Centennial United Church with a request to change the 2-hour parking limit on Mary Street between James Street and Miller Street to a 4-hour limit. They indicate many people using programs at St. James United Church and the Mary Street Center need more than 2 hours for such visits. That too then is up to council's discretion because it doesn't currently fit within the policy. And the last item of correspondence did just come in today and was circulated to members of council, and it's from Enbridge. Enbridge Gas has raised concerns with the Ontario Energy Board, the OEB, decision on phase 1 of their rate rebasing application. It seems that the Government of Ontario's Bill 165, Keeping Energy Costs Down Act, must have addressed items there because they're indicating the legislation reinforces the critical role of natural gas in keeping energy costs down for Ontarians and the importance of natural gas and its associated infrastructure in achieving Ontario's energy transition in a measured and practical way. Enbridge does, however, advocate that the government must send a signal that natural gas policy statement that capital investments in energy infrastructure, which are required to meet government policy goals, the OEB must ensure cost recovery mechanisms that provide regulatory certainty for recovery of these capital investments. And Enbridge also encourages with the public process that anybody comment on their phase 2 application to the OEB. So that item of correspondence will be added to the agenda that's posted on the website, and that concludes the correspondence.
Correspondence item 4.3, would council be interested in entertaining staff investigate the 4-hour time limit extension on that? Councillor Keith, Councillor Ornament. I know that they have programs there that last longer than 2 hours, and it means they have to go out and, well, move their vehicle or whatever. So anyway, anyone, any comments on that? Councillor McCann?
Are they asking for one particular date, such as what the seniors asked
No.
for? This is ongoing?
Okay.
Just to clarify, this is a direction to staff to investigate.
Yep. Yeah, we'll bring something back to council. Yeah. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, reports. We have no deputations tonight, so we'll go right to reports. We'll start with Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be short and sweet. On May the 8th, I attended McHappy Day and was happy to represent the town, taking some orders, processing cash payments, and serving some food to customers at the drive-through. All the funds raised that day, proceeds to Ronald McDonald House, which was a great cause. And I saw a lot of local faces that were represented as well through different organizations in the town. So that was great to see. And I guess that's the end of my report. I was pretty sick last week, so I ended up missing a few things. But so yeah, that's the end of my report for this week.
Thanks. Councillor Boardman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, everyone. On May 15th, I attended a meeting of the Governance Committee at Belvedere Heights. We continue to review the policies and such at the home and are doing our best to bring them into alignment with provincial regulations. On the following day, on the 16th, I attended a meeting of the Parry Sound Industrial Park. We passed the budget. It seems that the transition to the town providing management of water and waste services at the park is moving along relatively smoothly. I think the crisis is over. There's still maybe some bumps along the way, some unexpected things here and there, but we're moving forward in a reasonable fashion. And the capital work is at the park is just now, the upgraded infrastructure is just now nicely getting underway. And in conclusion, I would remind folks again that on June 6th, IceCap will be hosting its 5th anniversary luncheon and trade show at the Charles W. Stockey Center. Hopefully people get out and look at the technology that's available to them and hopefully saving some money moving forward. Thankful.
Councilor McCann?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, fellow councilors, staff, and public. Two items to report on this evening. Wednesday morning, May the 8th, I attended the Parry Sound Public Library Board meeting in person at the library. We received financials for the month of March. A multi-year accessibility plan for 2024 to 28 has been developed and is available upon request. Our first quarter statistics were reviewed, and the library seems to be getting busier. In the first 3 months, it had 5,382 visitors. That is up 7% from the first quarter of last year. Computer use was up this time around by 10%. The use of the mute boxes, you'll recall they were put in not long ago, up by 5%. Circulation of physical items up by 31%. And as always, we encourage you to check the library's website for upcoming library programs at parrysoundlibrary.com. On Monday afternoon, May 13th, I attended the meeting of the Waterfront Advisory Committee. We received an update and information from MHBC Planning, Urban Design, and Landscape Architecture of Barrie. They're working with the town of Parry Sound on our official plan. There was continued discussion on our ideas and vision expressed through our internal committee member survey. Moving forward, the committee wants to conduct a summer survey to gather feedback on the community's vision for the future of our waterfront. And there is a resolution on this initiative before council later this evening. Committee members are planning to attend community events throughout the summer to survey residents and visitors. Our findings will be compiled in September. Our overall goal is that our findings will help us identify and bring forth action area items to council afterwards. There was also discussion about organizing a fall community engagement as a follow-up to the summer survey. This is intended to raise awareness about the kickoff of the Waterfront Master Plan and encourage residents to become involved. And I would be remiss if I didn't also take this opportunity on behalf of the Waterfront Committee to wish Bob Corrigan a very happy 80th birthday. He turned the big 80 last week. Gosh, I can't remember what day it was, but congratulations. And Bob's ready to go for another 20 years or so. So thank you, Bob, for your service. He's quite involved with the Parry Sound Canadian Coast Guard Auxiliary. And you can often see him in his Cambrian boat at the town dock. So happy birthday, Bob. And that's my report.
Thank you. Councilor Bileski.
Thank you, Your Worship. On May the 13th, I attended a chamber meeting. This consent agenda that they're using is really speeding the meetings up a lot to make it makes it fairly smooth. We also did a tabletop exercise and looking in the direction that the chamber items that the chamber should be looking at in the future, and there's some great ideas come up. Some of them weren't really that great, but there was a lot of good ideas come up. I appreciate it. I enjoyed it. And then on the 16th, I attended the mayor's luncheon where at Henry's for the grand opening, and had a fairly good turnout, I thought. Excellent meal, way more than I need to eat, I'll tell you. They do definitely give great servings, and I enjoyed it. On the 17th, this is a little long, but on the 17th, I attended over at Elmsdale Community Center, the District of Parry Sound Municipal Association spring meeting. Speakers, what was a whole day deal, and we had staff attend and some of it, and we had Scott Atkinson from the federal government was there and gave us opening remarks. We had speakers talk about Occupational Health and Safety Act, navigation and waterways, grant money, municipal staff retention and succession, and the community paramedic program. They were all well-spoken, were really interesting. We also were privileged to have the ministry, Minister Graydon Smith was attended, and the Ministry of Infrastructure, the Honorable King of Surma. They give us a little rundown on what their departments do. And then they had a roundtable discussion, and the predetermined questions were, and they were aware of the questions, mind you, so they didn't have to come off the top of their head with them, but they was very good. I found it very informative on the future of her department and of Graydon's department. So I really enjoyed it. That the lunch was very good, and it was a very good deal. And the next meeting will be September the 27th at the Archibald. And that's my
Thank you.
report.
Councillor Ashford.
Thank you. Great couple of weeks. We met on the 8th for planning for the pool. And it's been really nice to see people can physically see what's going on with the pool, where there's been so much work being done by so many people, but you haven't been able to see it. So it's really great to see that kind of happening and moving forward. On the weekend, the 11th, we had an interesting event at the Stocky Center. A few years ago, our dance academy closed, and a new person in town, Taylor Moore, has taken up the challenge to try to provide a bit of a dance for all the young children in the community. And they rented the Stocky and did the recital. I have to say it was under an hour, so it was great from that perspective. But a wonderful opportunity. I met people from all over Ontario coming up to see the kids get up there and show their stuff. And I don't know all the children in town, but I know many of them. And it was really great for them and their self-esteem and their personal growth to get up there. So I did want to mention just a thank you to Taylor Moore and all the different instructors and volunteers and people that kind of joined in to make that happen, because in the end, it's not about the money. It's about trying it. And Stocky was wonderful too. It's about trying to bring the community together to do something great. My kid was in it. I thought she was the best. On the 13th, the Monday after, I kind of got rained out the week before, but Canadian Mental Health put on a barbecue for the community. I ran into them at the first annual Doc Rob and the Sound Youth Counseling their weekend conference that they had at the high school, and it was wonderful. I did not know that Canada Mental Health was in the Taylor building right there. So it was pretty nice to kind of see they're right local, they're right downtown, they're doing a lot. And they were out there throwing as many hot dogs as people could eat. Next, a busy day for a couple of the councillors. On the 15th, there was a meeting of the Accessibilities Committee. And we kind of gathered and did a little bit of work and moved some things a little bit forward. But there's also a Committee of Adjustments meeting almost simultaneously. So Councillor Keith and I, at one point I noticed she was gone. So I knew I had to run and do the Zoom meeting in the car to try to get through the Committee of Adjustment stuff. And of course, the staff were wonderful and had things all organized. So we moved things ahead a little bit for some of the building projects going on in town, all in one night. The Thursday, there was the mentioned by Councillor Bornman, we had the industrial park meeting, and I would agree. I think a lot of the hurdles of transition are there, but working through those kind of things and building friendships with other councillors and other municipalities is happening. So it was a great little kind of opportunity for everybody to share their stuff, disagree a little bit, and hopefully overall agree. Some treats from Dent River Bakery made their way over there, which I thought kind of smoothed things over a little. It was a nice opportunity for everybody to have a little bit. Again, thank you to the staff from Parry Sound who are coming and helping and supporting all those kind of efforts. And then that brings us to the Friday, the meeting Councillor Valesky mentioned over in Elmsdale. I'm glad to hear the next one's in the Archipelago, because a heck of a drive for a school teacher on his lunch to get over there. 5:18 is a bit windy, but made it on time, was able to get into the lunch. and a great opportunity for all the area municipalities to kind of gather. Sometimes in the west, we forget about the east. I don't know if they ever forget about us though, but it was a chance to kind of meet over there, and get people together and talk about some of our common stuff. I was surprised to hear one of the questions was about the town dock in Parry Sound, given it was on the other side. But I guess an important thing for all of Parry Sound District to be thinking about. And then on the 20th, I decided to remember Queen Victoria and do a few things with my family. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Keith.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors, staff, and the public. I'll try to be brief. I have now completed what was to be Earth Week pickup, but there was delay for valid reasons. And I definitely have completed 4 streets. This culminated in 12 large litter bags being collected. And I'm hoping when I do the same area, as I've tried doing that same area each year, that there will be less litter because more people will be stashing their trash. And as I've said before, if you can get it from a takeout place, I do not understand why you can't take your litter, garbage, whatever it is, but take it home and dispose of it, not on the side of the road, please. I also attended the Waterfront Advisory Committee meeting, and certainly I think the biggest highlight is the resolution, which will be on tonight's agenda. I, as councillor beside me, attended the curling club as a member of the Accessibility Advisory Committee, basically to make some very friendly observations as possible solutions in respect to accessibility. Not that we consider ourselves an authority, but sometimes some things will jump out at you right away. I also attended the Committee of Adjustment meeting, and 2 applications were processed and passed. And finally, I appreciated the Chamber of Commerce sponsorship, inviting us to attend the Mayor's Luncheon at the grand opening at Henry's on the Harbor. I counted 41 people sitting at tables and making sure to feast themselves. And certainly it was an opportunity to see again how our waterfront is developing and that we can be really proud of this. So I wish them well in the future. And finally, I wish and hope that everybody has had an enjoyable long weekend, which is past, and I'm sure we'll all be looking forward to the next one with warm weather, because we did get really good weather, I think, this past weekend. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council staff and public, I missed the last council meeting, so I'll run through, try to do it quick, a list. April 17th was a public health meeting. April 18th at 10 a.m. I had an AMO executive meeting, and then at 1 p.m. I attended the official opening of the curling exhibit at the museum. They've done some additional displays highlighting individuals in the community and some of their efforts and support for curling. April 19th, I attended the MNRF announcement from Minister Smith that the province is declaring the MNRF property on Bay Street surplus. This will take some time, but one important thing with this was that all jobs are staying in the community, which is a good thing. And we will certainly work through the process of however they're going to divest of that property. April 22nd was a MEPCO meeting at 10 a.m. and then at 1 p.m. I helped chair a joint meeting of 2 AMO task forces. April 28th, I attended a celebration of life ceremony at the Carling Recreation Center for Wayne and Angie Cormier. Extremely well attended event, and certainly want to thank the organizers for putting it on, because it was a good afternoon. May 1st to May 3rd was the OSM conference, which was held in Aurelia this year. Conference was held at the Aurelia Recreational Complex. It was a well-attended conference, and the vendors seemed very happy with everything. Some interesting sessions, revitalizing the local media landscape with the disappearance of print media was certainly and timely discussion to have on the agenda for the conference. And exploring political polarization in Canada, AMO's Healthy Democracy Project, and Steve Paikin from TV Ontario talked about 6 years of Premier Ford. So that was an interesting talk that he did as well. Also, economic development in small municipalities, and I moderated a session, strategies to address the big issues: homelessness, employment, accessible, affordable, and sustainable housing. And I was pleased that our CAO Clayton Harris and Clerk Rebecca Johnson came out for the day, as we will be hosting the OSIN conference here in Parry Sound in 2026. I also attended the Phenom conference from May 6th to May 8th, which was held in Sudbury. And we've certainly hosted the Phenom conference many times here in Parry Sound. That conference was really well attended. Some of the sessions I attended, Alan Carter from Global News gave us a look at life as a news anchor. He actually brought video clips of certain things that happened to him throughout his career. One of them, he got hit with a taser to find out what it was like. And he ended up on the floor. Anyway, some of the sessions, other than that, were Northern Ontario Hydro Opportunities, Investing in a Clean Future. The Ministers Forum was well attended. Our MPP, Minister Smith, was one of the speakers and panelists. MPAC gave an update on property insights in Northern Ontario, and there was a discussion on the immigration pilot revisited that we've certainly supported. May 4th, I was able to attend some of the Maple Fest events. The downtown was certainly busy, which was great to see. And I was one of the judges for the butter tart contest. There were 24 entries and we had to sample them all. So really, we ended up in an hour of having about 6 butter tarts. So it was, I think I came down from a sugar high, maybe the next day, something like that. But it was certainly fun, and it was good to do. There were a number of events throughout the day. I want to thank April Denman for all her efforts in putting this day together. And certainly a big thank you to all the volunteers, sponsors, and participants in making this day special. And certainly looking forward to next year. May 4th at 12:30, I attended a mental health symposium at the high school, which Councillor Ashford mentioned. Very well attended event, which showcased a good number of local support services and some really good guest speakers. May 8th, the pool committee was mentioned. May 7th, I want to thank Councillor McDonald for chairing the council meeting while I was away. May 9th was a DSAB meeting, and you should have got your reports in an email. Okay. May 10th at 10 a.m. was an AMO Audit Committee meeting. May 10th at 2 p.m. was West Parry Sound Economic Development Collaborative meeting. May 11th was the Georgian Bay Craft Beer Festival, which was held at Trestle Brewery. Again, another well-attended event. And May 16th, I was the guest speaker at the Chamber of Commerce event at Henry's Fish Restaurant, and the official ribbon cutting for the restaurant. And I want to thank, give all my best to Ted and Rachel on the restaurant, and hope it's a really big success for them. Yeah, so Councillor McDonald, in your other position, thank you for inviting me. Okay, that's my report. Thank you. Okay. Moved by Councillor Borneman, seconded by Councillor McCann. Be it resolved, the Town of Parry Sound Council hereby supports the Parry Sound Waterfront Advisory Committee's following initiatives. The committee conduct a summer survey to gather feedback on the community's vision for the future development of the waterfront. The committee will attend community events throughout the summer to conduct surveys, with a deadline for completed surveys to be submitted to the chair by Tuesday, September 3rd. The committee explore next steps in organizing a fall community engagement event to raise awareness about the kickoff of the waterfront master plan and encourage residents to participate in the engagement process, and that the committee formulate a subcommittee to begin preparing for the event. And be it further resolved, the council fully supports the Parry Sound Waterfront Advisory Committee in these endeavors and authorizes the necessary resources and assistance for the successful implementation of the survey and community engagement event. Discussion. Councillor Keith.
Yes, thank you. I'm a member of this committee, and I know there was a discussion about it, and I'm just asking for a friendly amendment of actually one word being added, and that would be in reference to the second paragraph of that resolution, the third line down. So it states the committee will attend community events. I'm asking what be added as / locations throughout the summer, etc. I think by adding that word, it allows any of the members to not only go to specific events, but other areas in the community where they see people gathering for whatever reason, that therefore they can ask them these few survey questions to get as much input as possible.
Okay.
I would second that.
Okay, all right. Yeah, if the mover and seconder are agreeable, then we can make that change. Councillor Borneman, you're good with that? Okay, so after events, you want / locations?
Patients.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? All in favor then? That's carried. Thank you. Somebody's going to be busy. Okay, next we have a direction, and I need to, wait a second here. Okay. Not the one on the other side. That's later, okay. Mover and seconder, please, for this direction. Councillor Keith and Councillor Boleski. The staff be directed to follow up with Seguin Township staff to obtain additional information regarding the extension of Parry Sound Road as the information relates to technical aspects of the request. Councillor McCann?
I'm not sure. Perhaps maybe Mr. Harris or could speak to this. Just for the benefit of for the public's benefit, just to know what some of our concerns are as council as we move forward with this and working with Seguin.
Thank you, through the chair to Councillor McCann. In the fall of 2023, Seguin requested the town support to extend the boundary road from where Parry Sound Road ends out to Osler Park Drive. At the time, the council expressed an interest in supporting the request, but they did have a number of questions as to the implications on the town in terms of through traffic. I think the biggest concern was when the boundary road is completed, traffic from not only any subdivisions and developments that may happen in the MZO area, but also traffic from Osler Park Drive and the 400 would find a shortcut through to Rose Point, Parry Island, and spots in the east, southwest side of town. The roads that exist in Parry Sound at this time aren't capable of handling that amount of traffic in a safe way, both for vehicles and pedestrians. So council's concern was how are you planning to deal with that? There was a number of other concerns, but I think that was the predominant one, pedestrian and vehicle safety. So we asked for a meeting with Seguin staff. We met a couple of weeks ago, and we received a response back that's attached from Seguin Council. And we're suggesting, because these issues are more technical in nature, we'd like to have a bit more back and forth at the staff level, not council to council. And one of the examples that I provided in the report is, in our meeting, we asked the question about what's the plan to deal with traffic and the amount of traffic that could go through there, more than would be generated from simply the subdivision, but because it's essentially a bypass and people exiting the 400 might take it. And we specifically asked that any traffic studies that are undertaken don't just include the traffic generated from the individual subdivision, but look at all the traffic that could be on that road, because that's going to have a profound impact on that end of Parry Sound Road. And it's that comment isn't referenced in here. It's saying, we'll do it in the future and we'll consult with Parry Sound. We'd like a bigger commitment. That's one example. And there's some other areas. And we did have a good, productive conversation, but we think there's more conversations to be had at the staff level, not back and forth council to council. And so that's why this recommendation is before you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Councillor Bileski?
Thank you, your worship. I'm glad to see this come forward. I think that additional discussion needs to be done on the possibility of putting this road through. It's good now that, the mayor, I guess, has spoken to some of them, and I think staff can be involved with it now. I think the more questions we raise, the more answers we're going to get. So I think it's vitally important that we do set up and get talking and get this addressed. So I would support this, yes.
Anyone else? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Borneman, that council approve the 2024 municipal assistance program map allocations per Schedule A. So, Parry Sound CB and DC, 2,982. Business Center for Nipissing Parry Sound, 2,339 for a total of $5,321 out of 6,050 from that one. And then the municipal assistance program allocations to nonprofit. The total amount we had was 4,950, but there were a lot more entries this year than previous years. So the 295 McPherson Squadron, $579. Festival of the Sound, $936. Georgian Bay Mindu Gami Biosphere, $479. Georgian Bay Winds Community Band, $250. Georgian Jumpers, $407. Parry Sound Youth Basketball, $636. Parry Sound District EMS Toy Drive, $507. Parry Sound Nature Club, $429. And Victim Services in East and West Parry Sound, $486 for a total of $4,709. Any discussion? Councilor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. Seeing as there were so many more requests this year, would it be possible to maybe up the ante on the allocation next year, Ms. Phillips?
Yes, through Mr. Mayor, we can have a look at that for the next year's budget.
I was wondering if we could roll some of the economic development over into the other one for next year as well, considering we usually only get two. And that way we might not have to add more to it, but we could add maybe what's remaining out of the other or something. Yeah. We take a look at that.
Okay, we'll take a look at that. We'll
Sure.
have a look and review.
Any other questions, comments? Councillor Borneman?
The contributions to the municipal causes, I almost think that maybe there has to be a sunset clause involved with that we, most of them are fairly recent startups and they need money to get programs off the ground. But at some point in time, maybe they need to become self-sufficient. And maybe, we have I'm a 5 and 8, a 10-year exit strategy or 3 years, whatever people feel is fair. But, maybe that's something to think about as well, because as you say, there were a good number of new applications this year.
Yeah. Maybe that's something that we could take a look at before next year's budget. And some of those have been around for, maybe we knew how many years actually we've been funding, especially the nonprofit ones I get, because a lot of them are operating on a shoestring, most of them anyway. But the other ones, I think we should take a look at how long we've been supporting them as well. Fair enough? Okay. Anything else with regard to the resolution? All in favor then? And that's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Borneman, second by Councillor McDonald, that council accepts the bid from AI Road Tech Services Incorporated for the Church Street retaining wall replacement in the amount of $345,465, excluding taxes. This being the lowest bid and complete submission received out of 6 submissions. Discussion? Councillor Bileski?
Thank you, your worship. I'd mentioned here a few weeks back, that on these, when the report comes in, this was budgeted. And I'm just wondering how close it came to what we had budgeted for, what the actual cost is. It doesn't identify that here.
Mr. Kearns?
Thank you, your worship. Yeah, I can speak to that. So the total amount that's before you in this tender is under the budgeted amount. However, we do have some additional smaller sections of wall to complete within that budget amount.
Thank you, worship. That's good. So the total is going to be at or below the budgeted amount. That's great. I wonder, could we identify that in future reports?
Yeah, we should.
Through your worship, is it council's desire to have it identified within the resolution? I guess the staff have typically captured that within the body of the report.
It should be within the body of the report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, if the bids all come in over or it's less, it's just good to know. Yeah.
If I may speak, just the only reason I'm saying that is that the audience doesn't get a chance to read the internal report. So if it's on this motion here, it lets the public know whether we're within the budget money that we've allocated for it. That's why I asked it to be identified here.
You want it identified in the resolution?
I want to identify that it's within the budget. That's all.
Oh, with it just, so a comment saying it's within the budget parameters.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry, they made the report saying that it's this being the lowest bid and completed submission received out of the 6 submissions, which is great. But then they could just add a letter to the end of it, a note to the end of it saying it's within an expected budget. And if it's not, then you could put that this is above the budget and we've had to come up with additional funding through reserves or something along that line, just to identify it for everybody that reads it or sees it.
Okay, but we don't need to know how much, just that it was. But in the body of the report, it's always good for council to know how much we're over or whether we're within. Yeah, that good, Mr. Kurt? Yeah. Well, like I said, it goes for anybody doing bid. That's good for anybody doing bids and tenders and stuff like that. Councilor Borneman first, and then Councilor McCann.
So Mr. Cairns, 6 bids raised, $345,000 to over $1 million, which when it's a relatively small job in the big scheme of things, it always concerns me when I see such a wide range. Have we had any experience with this company in the past? It would seem to me variables are material and labor. Labor's not going to be substantially different, I wouldn't think, from one company to another. How do we get such a wide range here? Did somebody miss something or?
Through your worship. So in order to answer the question to Councillor Borneman, we have to make a couple of educated guesses rather than assumptions. When we see bid submissions like this, in this case, the materials are fairly well determined ahead of time. They're blocks in a retaining wall. The submissions have been vetted and assessed by our engineering firm as well. So we are confident that we're going to get the quality and the product that we anticipate. Typically, when we see such a range in bids, I think one of the other variables is mobilization for a lot of these companies and how they choose to house, first of all, mobilize and or house their staff. We're not always privy to. We have heard from other contractors that's been an issue for them. Some have found creative ways to house their staff that, perhaps take advantage of the area in the summertime. So we certainly don't dictate any of that. We put out the bids for offer, and the folks find the best way to come in with a competitive price. Sometimes we have seen in the construction industry, we'll see prices that seem very high, and perhaps that's indicative of the fact that the folks don't really want the work, but if they put a price to it and receive the work, perhaps they can find a way to get it done. Now that's just we're just supposing on that. I have seen that in some of my past experiences where we've had wide-ranging bids for those various reasons, and frankly, over the last few years, probably 4 years now, through COVID, we saw some really wide-ranging bids come in with not great explanations from our perspective. But again, it's a public bid process. We did vet the submissions, and we are going to be requiring the product that we are paying for.
So in the tender description, the materials used are pretty confining, constriction. We're getting what we want. This isn't some low ball set of blocks that I bought on YouTube or something through Amazon and
through your worship, no, the product is specified. So there's a very specific product that has to be used. And the reason for that is we've seen some of the retaining walls around town we've had issues with over the years. And that's something we want to avoid. So the product is specified. We know what we're getting.
Councilor McCann?
So for Mr. Kearns then, so that's kind of what I was going to ask. The products that are being used, are they using the same blocks that were used on along the fitness trail and on Bow Street? And the second question is the winning bid here the company that worked on these other projects in town?
I believe Mr. Bonazza is online. I might defer to him in terms of what work this particular contractor is doing for us now. And just in reference to the blocks, they're very similar to the ones you'll see on Bow Street and other areas that they look like a sculpted limestone, maybe as a reference point.
They seem to have proven themselves.
So if I could get Mr. Bonazza may be able to comment on the contractor and the other work.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to let you guys know that they are also the successful bidder on our Gibson Street tender as well. So they are actually starting work on that as well. And in both processes, we've looked through extensively their references and they've done some jobs for other municipalities that we've got really good feedback from as well.
Thank you.
Anything else? No? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay. Glad I don't have to read all this. Moved by Councillor Pulaski, seconded by Councillor Ashford, whereas the town dock is an integral piece of infrastructure in the heart of the town's waterfront. Whereas the town dock is owned by the federal government, and whereas the town leases the dock from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, DFO, whereas the town commissioned a regular inspection of the dock in early 2023, and whereas the town subsequently requested DFO to undertake and fund a more comprehensive assessment of the dock. Whereas DFO has completed the condition assessment of the town dock provided as Schedule A, now therefore be it resolved, the council appreciates DFO's investment in the town dock, and the following actions are hereby approved. 1, staff support DFO in conducting a priority 1 repairs in 2024. 2, that staff work with the federal and provincial governments to investigate securing funding for priority 2 repairs with the objective of undertaking the work at the earliest possible opportunity. 3, that cruise ships will be required to anchor in the harbor and tender their passengers to the town dock until such time as the required repairs are completed or DFO approves docking under specific circumstances, and that staff consult with Transport Canada and the cruise ship lines with respect to the possible arrangements for mooring at the salt dock as an alternative to the town dock. Any discussion? Councilor McDonald.
Maybe Mr. Thompson, through your worship, Mr. Thompson can relay if there's been any communications with, I believe, Pearl Mist Cruise Lines as to whether or not they would be able to tender their passengers or what the plan is with them for this season.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We've had discussions with both the Pearl Mist directly as well as the Great Lake Cruising Group with regards to the report. At this time, I don't believe the Pearl Mist has decided on how they want to proceed in terms of the alternatives of tendering, going to the salt dock as a priority. They're also actually investigating with their own engineers the report and trying to determine if they have any other methods of mooring that would not exceed the limits that are currently being positioned by DFO. So there's a lot of balls still in the air. Pearl Mist is still planning on coming to the town of Parry Sound. Their first trip would be on May 28th, and which is next Tuesday, a week from today, and having their guests explore and enjoy everything that the town has to offer. How exactly they're going to do that, we're not quite sure yet.
Councilor Kent? I think Mr. Harris had his hand up first.
Through the mayor, councilors always get priority, but I did want to add, in addition to speaking with the Pearl Mist and the Ponant cruise ship people, we've also spoken with Transport Canada, and in speaking with Transport Canada, they felt it would be a pretty quick turnaround to get their approval to put cruise ships at the salt dock. It needs to be it's classed as an occasional port now, not a marine facility like the town dock, but it
currently only includes salt ships, doesn't include cruise boats. So we have to make an amendment. We're in the process of doing that. We have to put up what the security would be like now that people would be disembarking and re-accessing the ship. So we've got to put a few details together, but they didn't seem to think that was an onerous exercise, and we should be able to have that in place. But as Mr. Thompson says, we're looking at some other opportunities as well.
I agree. And being on the waterfront advisory committee meeting, this is certainly something that I can see as valuable and certainly need to support. There's a lot of work to be done, and this is the way to get started at it. And nothing lasts forever. So the reality is, if we want to be prepared, and I think that the cruise ship business is only going to get better over the next few years. No one has a crystal ball. We don't know what things may look like in 10, 15 years from now, but I kind of think it's going to go up. And there's a great attraction for the Great Lakes now. So we're seeing that evidence right here in our own sound. Yeah.
Through the mayor, just want to also reiterate the good relationship we have with DFO and their staff. I mean, we met last fall. They agreed to undertake the full condition assessment and to fund it, which is great. They've also are working with the town, we're trying to connect the engineers from Pearl Mist with their engineers. They've said they're going to undertake the priority one repairs at their cost this summer. So, you know, it's a good working relationship. Right at this point, they're not able to fund the priority two repairs, approximately 600,000. But there's a meeting set up for this Thursday with FedNor and HOFC to see what monies might be available. And at the meeting that Councillor Bileski referred to in Emsdale, the Parry Sound District meeting, I had a chance to meet with our MP and went over the importance of the funding. We'd already sent him some information, but he just wanted some more details to see if he could maybe find where there might be some, we call it emergency funding because we want to get this done as soon as possible. We're already approached the DFO to see if they could, what it would take to get the engineering design work started, because regardless of how it gets funded or if it's delayed, we need the design work done, and that we don't want that to hold us up if we all of a sudden finally have monies.
Sure, and just to follow up on that, I think we should make it clear for the public's benefit that we're not doing this just for the cruise ships, especially the work that we'll be looking at for the next 5 or 10 years. We don't have a town dock. We have a significant loss on our waterfront. So this is not just to invite the cruise ships to come in. This is a multi-use facility.
Perhaps through the mayor, if I could just respond. We have a media release that's going out at the end of this meeting once this item is dealt with. And it's focused on exactly that. DFOs agrees to invest in the town dock, and that's for safety related issues, not cruise ship matters, but trip hazards, railings, fixing upstairs, and that's important to anybody that walks that dock. So it's important much beyond the cruise ship industry for sure.
Councillor Keith.
Yes, my comment, thank you, is just to reiterate that this is all part to me of waterfront development. So it's really important that this happens because this is like one of the fundamentals that we need. So I think we on council may all appreciate that. But I will say a little bit about in the event that the Pearl Mist and Great Lakes Cruising are able to come to the salt docks, I'll do my best to go down and do my welcoming greet just as I had done at other places. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? All in favor then? That's carried. There you go. Moved by Councillor Ashford, second by Councillor Keith, that Council for the Town of Parry Sound supports Mayor McGarvey's nomination for the office of Director, Small Urban Caucus on the Association of Municipalities of Ontario Board of Directors. Any discussion? Councillor Keith?
Well, I'm just going to say it's great that we have a mayor that's quite willing to put his hand up for this. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, this is election year for all the different caucuses and president. So, yeah, it's a busy time. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that. Moved by Councillor Keith, second by Councillor Ashford, whereas Seniors Month is an annual province-wide celebration, whereas seniors have contributed and continue to contribute immensely to the life and vibrancy of this community, and whereas seniors continue to serve as leaders, mentors, volunteers, and important and active members of this community, whereas their contributions past and present warrant appreciation and recognition, and their stories deserve to be told. Whereas the health and well-being of seniors is in the interest of all and further adds to the health and well-being of the community. Whereas the knowledge and experience seniors pass on to us continues to benefit all. Now therefore, the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Parry Sound hereby proclaims June 1st to 30th, 2024 as Seniors Month and encourages all citizens to recognize and celebrate the accomplishments of our seniors. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Ashford, whereas access to healthcare is a fundamental right for all citizens regardless of their geographic location. Whereas Hope Air, a charitable organization, has been tirelessly dedicated to providing access to healthcare by facilitating free flights and other services for patients living in rural and underserved communities in Ontario, ensuring that they can receive vital medical treatment regardless of distance or financial means. Whereas Hope Air has been instrumental in bringing the gap between smaller communities and hospitals far from home, reducing the barriers that often prevent individuals from reaching medical care. Whereas the impact of Hope Air extends beyond the individual patients served, positively affecting families, communities, and the healthcare system as a whole by promoting wellness and reducing the burden of untreated medical conditions. Whereas the compassion, dedication, and commitment demonstrated by Hope Air and its volunteers embody the spirit of community and the belief in the inherent value of every individual's well-being. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Town of Parry Sound that on June 7th, 2024 shall be known as Hope Air Day in recognition of the invaluable contributions made by Hope Air to the health and well-being of individuals in Ontario, remote and rural communities. And something that was mentioned about this too, I believe it was at the Phenom conference, was that Ontario's, there are a number of remote areas, obviously, in many provinces in Canada, and Ontario is the only one that doesn't support a group like a service like this. So anyway, any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Ashford, second by Councillor Keith. Council of the Corporation of Town of Parry Sound hereby supports the Municipality of Wawa's resolution attached to Schedule A, calling upon the federal government to enact Bill C-310 to increase the tax credit from $3,000 to $10,000 for volunteer firefighters and search and rescue volunteers volunteering in the excess of 200 hours a calendar year. And the copy of this resolution be shared with the Association of Fire Chiefs of Ontario and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and Municipality of Wawa. Any discussion? Councillor McCann?
I'm sure Chief Thompson could speak more to this. I know that volunteers put a lot of time in and probably out of their expenses, out of their own pocket when they come and go. Maybe you could speak to this.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for putting this on the agenda. The main thing I'd just like to stress is the time and effort that the volunteer firefighters put into protection of the community. They put in many, many hours, and it's an extremely efficient way to provide the service for a small urban community. Without running a fire department in this format with volunteer firefighters, the cost and the burden to the taxpayer would be suffocating. So I'm really happy to say that right now, it's the first time since I've been here, and I'm sure for many years before me, we actually have a full roster, and it's because of initiatives such as this that are encouraging the people who come on board to train hard and to stay with the service and do this. And turnover is very difficult on the firefighter. A little turnover is a great thing. A lot of turnover is extremely difficult to manage. And we have a very good mix right now of senior people, some of which have been doing this for 35 to 40 years, right down to 5 recruits that we've brought on this year. And it's a fantastic team, and they all want to be there, and they all want to help with the community. So thank you for moving this forward.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
Councilor Bileski.
Thank you, your worship. I support this. We talk about volunteers, and they are volunteers, but their hours aren't dedicated. Like, they don't say we have a meeting this week and we're going to volunteer to help with it. It's the pager can go off 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether it's a family function or a sleep or anything that's going on. The pager goes off and they need to go. And a lot of people don't look at that. They do the training. They know it's going to be a certain night. They do this. They know it's going to be a certain night. But it's the unexpected that they get the call for that really puts a stress on a lot of them and a lot of the families. And I'm speaking from experience. I was a volunteer firefighter, and I can remember my family saying, "Can't you stay? You know, do you have to leave right now?" And I said, "Well, if it was our house, we do want the firefighters to come here." And so, yes, I have to go. So I think this is it's not really a raise, but it is a roundabout way to get them to keep a little more of the money that they rightfully deserve. And I'd support it 100%. Thank you.
Anything further? All in favor? And that's carried. I need a mover and seconder for the direction. Councilor McCann, Councilor Keith. The staff be directed to express to Dr. Suzanne Mills of McMaster University that the town of Parry Sound interest in participating in a research study focusing on Northern Ontario with respect to international migration. Internal migration to communities in northeastern Ontario and the Maritimes during and after the pandemic. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councilor Bileski, second by Councilor Ashford, that bylaw number 2024-7426 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with the Township of the Archipelago for the disposal of household waste be considered as read a first time. All in favor? Carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. Moved by Councilor Bileski, second by Councilor Ashford, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time. Passed, signed, and sealed. Any, Councilor McCann?
Yes, Mr. Rand, could you speak to this for the benefit of the public? I might have a question once you've made a comment.
We'll go to Mr. Kern. Mr. Kern?
Yeah, thank you, Your
I'm
Worship.
sorry. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
No worries. So this is something we've been discussing for a little while, and I guess partly it's kind of good timing in terms of blue box transition. So I'll start there. We are currently in transition, as we explained to council at the start of January, and the archipelago is entering a blue box transition as of July 1st this year. In part of our discussions with the authority looking after the transition of blue box to full producer responsibility, they determined that they did not want to duplicate services at the Parrystown transfer station, McFarland Street transfer station. So the archipelago currently has bins there for garbage and for two different blue box commodities. So those two blue box bins will be removed as of July 1st, and archipelago residents will be permitted to utilize the bins that the producers have at our transfer station. So I refer to it that way because we are being compensated for those bins, and we do not pay for the transportation nor processing of the materials in those bins currently. So that won't change. We will actually see an increase to our payments from the producers to permit the archipelago to utilize our site and those bins. Further to that, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to have a single garbage bin there for the archipelago residents, in addition to what we currently offer. So we had discussions, their Director of Public Works and myself. We looked at historic tonnages that the archipelago has collected at our transfer station, and came to an agreeable dollar amount that would help, or that would offset the costs of any disposal, as well as contributing to the ongoing operations provided by the town of Parrystown for the archipelago residents. So it'll make this site a lot safer. It'll make it a lot easier for our attendants to ensure that we're seeing maximum diversion in both streams. We want to maximize the amount of blue box material that gets collected by the producers. That's the intention, that they're responsible for their materials entire life cycle. Further to that, I think I'll just take the opportunity to mention that council will see some recommendations coming from staff a little bit later in terms of transitioning to a clear bag policy and giving that some thought. That is one of the most effective ways to ensure that blue box materials don't end up in our garbage stream, because that just costs everyone. The producers essentially get off the hook for the cost of recycling if that is disposed of. Plus, the diversion is beneficial to landfill, maximizing landfill life cycles, as well as ensuring that we're actually recycling the materials as they come through. That'll be later on for council's consideration. I just kind of wanted to mention it because the archipelago does have a clear bag policy in place, as do many other municipalities in the province.
Yeah, there are many other municipalities that do, and I think one of the things that we're going to need to do is make sure that we, given it, I think the retailers, so that they know, because there are a lot of still dark bags that go out and are sold. So, and they're not going to want to sit on a whole bunch of inventory. So if we can kind of make them aware that this is going to happen, and then give a time period so they can deplete themselves of stock this way, because I think Carling is clear bags as well, and there may be some others. So, but I would say we're getting a lot of usage in the community itself. Yeah.
If I could add, Your Worship, you're right. Now, we definitely don't want the retailers to end up with a product that is unsellable. I have experienced in my past when I was involved with a couple of those clear bag policy transitions in my past, and I do know that some of the manufacturers actually reached out to us as a municipality at the time to ensure that the retailers were also informed. So that was surprising, I'll say, from that the manufacturers were paying attention, but they are too, to speak to the retailers about stocking appropriate materials.
Yeah, good. Councilor McCann, a follow-up?
Yeah, sure. So I think it shouldn't come as too much of a surprise because we've all been expected for the most part in most places to use clear bags for recycling. I've seen what piles up in the fiber box and also in the fiber section at the transfer station on McFarland. And yeah, the diversion can never be overrated. We can see an awful lot of garbage, and we've reminded people before that this isn't garbage. This is recyclable material to be reused again. But my question is, because of the volume that's been coming into those bins on behalf of Archipelago, are we expanding our bins up on top to accommodate all of the cardboard and fibers and containers that we would expect to get?
Through your worship. So this is where it's a little bit different for us now. They are no longer our bins, although we do own them. They are compensating us for their use, and the materials within them and the transportation associated and the processing is all falls to the responsibility of the producer. So we will not be expanding the bins. They'll be continuing to, these are essentially for our setup, they're the largest bins that you can get, the 40-yard compactor bins. They may have to haul them more often, that being their issue as well. So that's one of the benefits of participating through transition is that we simply need to make the phone call to let them know the bin is full and we need it exchanged. So it would be great to see an increase in volume going through those bins for sure. The blue box, I mean. Certainly not the garbage bins. We don't treat them the same way, but the higher volume of recyclables would be a welcome issue to have to deal with.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Councilor Asher.
Just from a customer service perspective on this, I think I haven't understood from the reading, but like my wife's family, they own property in Archipelago. So when they come to the town dump, basically go up, they got their Archipelago card, they go down the hill, throw the garbage and the recycling away. Town folks, we go up, we try to finagle our green slips to see how much garbage we can get in under one green slip or whatever, right? And use the same, you do the same thing, but up at the top of the hill. What I'm hearing is that we're all going to be doing it at the top in the same little center. Maybe perhaps it'll be a little bit busier, but at the end of the day, it's just a bit of a change of location for the Archipelago folk.
It's true, your worship. Correct. That's essentially the difference. They're still going to come through the same process, be greeted and provide ID and then proceed to the bins. So although it may be a little bit busier, it should be a lot more efficient.
Councilor Barnwood.
Mr. Cairns, are there any concerns about, as you said, the bins may have to be swapped out more regularly? I'm thinking about long weekends and increased traffic, and the bin is half full Friday afternoon, and Sunday the bin is full to overflowing. How are those situations to be monitored, or have they been contemplated? What are we able to do to
through your worship? So that situation, I guess, would be perhaps most contemplated with waste, with garbage, probably more than recycling. And the turnaround time is pretty quick, and staff are so that's still our responsibility. And we have a local contractor that hauls for us, and we do have some spare bins. So we don't anticipate any issues. Quite frankly, the volume that the Archipelago residents generate historically should not present that problem for us.
Are we good? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moved by Counselor McDonald, second by Counselor Borneman, that bylaw number 2024-7424 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2004-4653, the zoning bylaw as amended for 85 River Street, Bernatty, as described as part of lot 1 to 13 east side of River Street. Plan 21 being part 3, Plan 42R 7305, and REM Part 1, Plan 42R 13847, and Part 1, Plan 42R 14037 be considered as read a first time. All in favor? Carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. Moved by Counselor Borneman, second by Counselor McDonald, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Discussion. Well, I've got a couple of questions. One, I note, well, comments, I guess. I noticed that the trucking facility was gone out of there, and there was a couple of other things. Now, as far as the drainage issues that the neighborhood was talking about, that'll be taken care of during site plan process?
To your worship, that is correct. We did identify a drainage course on site.
Yeah.
It may have been filled in with gravel. Currently, it looks like it's sort of part of the parking area. So that would certainly be something that we would look at through the site plan process, which I think staff see as an opportunity to improve things that were noted during the public meeting by the neighbors.
Okay, all right. Any questions, comments? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moved by Counselor McCann, second by Counselor Borneman, that bylaw number 2024-7425 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2004-4653, the zoning bylaw as amended for 7 Champagne Street and legally described as Mill Block B and part of Mill Block C and part of Water Lot A, Plan 64 in the former township of McDougall, now in the town of Parry Sound, be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. Moved by Counselor McCann, second by Counselor Borneman, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Okay. Moved by Counselor McDonald, seconded by Counselor McCann, that bylaw number 2024-7427 being of a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council be considered as read a first time. All in favor? Carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? Carried. Moved by Counselor McCann, seconded by Counselor McDonald, the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. All in favor? That's carried. Prior to adjourning, I'd like to offer the following information to the public regarding the next council meeting. The next meeting of council for the town of Parry Sound is scheduled for Tuesday, June the 4th at 7 p.m. The meeting will be held at the town of Parry Sound Council Chambers at 52 Seguin Street. Entrance via Gibson Street will be live streamed and recorded. All regular council meetings are held at 7 p.m. on the first and third Tuesday of each month, except January and August, where only one regular meeting is scheduled. The council meeting schedule, notices of special council meeting, complete agendas and minutes, and instructions on accessing live streamed and recorded council meetings are all posted on the town's website. Go to www.parrysound.ca and use the search bar. And Your TV airs council meetings on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. following a regular council meetings. Go to Cogeco listings, contact www.yourtv.tv. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.